Hello, Internet, and thank you very much for tuning into the Cloud-Native FM podcast. This is my first episode after KubeCon Salt Lake City. And in this episode, I invited a special guest from a very special domain, that is state of Kubernetes risk, compliance, and vulnerabilities. And if you're guessing, you are right. This is our KubeCon recap from Salt Lake City. Where we are, where we want to be, going down the path of ooh and ah of cloud-native security. Joining me today, Oshrat Nir is a developer advocate at ARMO, the company behind the powerful open source Kubernetes security tool Kubescape, and we will be delving into the shift left security paradigm and its crucial role in protecting modern DevOps workflow. A bit of intro of my guest. Oshrat Nir is a developer advocate for Kubescape and ARMO, where she helps companies adopt good Kubernetes security practices. She has over 20 years of IT experience, including roles at Amdocs and Giant Swarm. She is a big believer in transparency and community, and she loves telling stories. She excels at bridging the gap between tech people and believing this intersection drives significant technological advancement. Oshrat holds a BSc and an MBA from a Technician Israel Institute of Technology. Without any further delay, let me straight get to my guest. Oshrat, thank you very much for your first appearance on this show. Over to you now.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited, especially with KubeCon behind us. After KubeCon is before KubeCon. Already looking towards London, but there's still a lot I learned and I saw at Salt Lake City.
Absolutely. And as we're speaking today, I think today and yesterday might be KubeCon's CFP is now closed for the London. So we always been living in the cloud native community. We fight with the deadlines all the time. Sometimes it's very easy, but sometimes it's going to be a very overwhelming because we are rushing out of one KubeCon and now preparing for the next KubeCon as well. But I think the London is a very great place to be in for people who are planning out to be in the KubeCon as well. So the first question is quite natural. You are part of the Kubescape. I've seen you in somewhere in the post around Kubescape having a project pavilion in the Kubernetes during I think 3 days of the KubeCon. So tell people a little bit about what the project pavilion is and what are the most thoughtful, what are the most exciting questions and what are the challenges you have heard during your present at Salt Lake City?
Wow. Okay. So first of all, let's start with the Project Pavilion. Every KubeCon has a Project Pavilion in which it gives the project on the CNCF landscape an opportunity to show their stuff. Because we all know how huge the KubeCon the CNCF landscape is, it would take up the whole solutions hall if it were only open source projects. So what they do is that there are shifts on the pavilion, and now George from the CNCF has done, in the past 2 KubeCons, has done tours of the pavilion, which is really cool in my opinion. So I encourage attendees of KubeCon to not visit the pavilion only once. Come there more than once because you will see that there are changes in the booths. So we had a great shift. It was very interesting. There was a lot of traffic. And I was able to tell the story of Kubescape many times and basically tell our history, which is where we started as basically a configuration scanner based on the NSA hardening guidelines on Kubernetes hardening. But we've grown and changed so much ever since. So first of all, we were the right tool at the right time, because you can see in our stargazer that we grew more than exponentially. It was nearly a horizontal line the way we grew in the beginning, just because those new hardening guidelines came out and nobody really knew what to do with them. We all knew sys benchmarking, we all knew other things, but this was a brand new thing that we had never heard of as a community. So that's what we solved. We then improved the scanner and we added onto it in terms of different frameworks like CIS, which we all know, and MITRE ATT&CK, which every security-minded person would know, and others. We also added vulnerability scanning, where you can scan for CVEs. And then, as a pretty robust scanner, we came into the CNCF as a sandbox project, which is where we are now. But we didn't stop. We didn't stop, and we continued to develop KubeScape to be more than just a scanner. If anybody visited or paid attention on my video, there's a handwritten addition there because it's a runtime driven scanner now. What we do is we analyze what goes on in runtime, what the applications running on the Kubernetes infrastructure really need, and then we bring that back into hardening. We bring that back into hardening when we do vulnerability scanning and we tell people what they're most vulnerable to, because a vulnerability that is in memory is for sure more dangerous than a vulnerability that's just somewhere buried in some layer of the image. I'm not saying ignore vulnerabilities. I'm just saying you need to know which fire you can walk to and which fire you need to run to put out. Another thing that we do is we take that information and we suggest, we basically not even suggest, we automate the suggestion of network policies. So network policies is a big deal. It's pretty hard to do. Any DevOps person will know that it's like, how should I know? I'll break the application. And the dev will say, how should I know? I don't know what it's supposed to talk to. So we're stuck with a very powerful security tool, which is very, very hard to implement. And KubeScape really wants to help with that, solve that problem. And lastly, we added actually runtime anomaly detection, which basically shows, gives alerts on when there are indications that the application isn't behaving as it should be, and that could be significant in terms of the application being hacked. So all of these things are really, really interesting in terms of what we've added to KubeScape in order to make it more robust and much, much more than a scanner. And if I were to bring that out and kind of zoom out and talk about KubeCon in general, runtime security is a thing. Everybody was talking about it. Well, except for the people that were talking about observability. But even that has something to do with runtime security. So it's a very, very big thing. It's blowing up. Many, many people do it. Many people do it in different ways. Even projects within the CNCF landscape, there are multiple projects doing runtime security. It's just a question of where you're coming from and what the context is and how you build it out. So the what is pretty similar, because if you need a header, then there's only so much room in a title. The how is pretty interesting, and I really, really suggest people kind of dig into the code or the documentation, have a look, try to understand, give it a try, and see if you're happy with the way it works. Yeah, I guess.
Awesome, awesome. So let me actually recap and then I test my knowledge today because I've been experimenting and using the tool for a while now. So Kubescape is an open source, I kind of say as a Swiss tool that provides RBAC visualizer. That's my favorite feature. Also the image vulnerability scanning and risk analysis and security compliance. Kubescapes can detect RBAC violations, software vulnerabilities, and mixed configuration at the early stages of CI/CD pipeline, calculates risk score instantly, and shows risk trends over time. And it has native integration with DevOps tools like Circle CI, Jenkins, GitLab CI/CD, GitHub Action. So is it a nice overview or I'm missing
Very
something?
nice, nearly 100%. With regard to the RBAC visualizer, KubeScape doesn't currently have a UI. So it will give you information about RBAC, but you need to handle it. So you can export it to whatever dashboard you work with. We've had customers that have built Grafana dashboards based on KubeScape output, not customers, sorry, users. Um, and and we now have an experimental UI via Headlamp, which is two sandbox projects walking hand in hand, which is very good. You can expect a blog post coming out really, really soon to tell you the story of how Headlamp became the UI, can become the UI of KubeScape. We also have a very nice output on the CLI, which is cute. And with regard to kind of very robust and enterprise grade UI, that would be something that you'd see in ARMO platform, which is built and powered by KubeScape. It's built by ARMO, which are basically the creators of KubeScape and the core maintainers. So there is that. If you're a diehard open source person, then of course KubeScape does have solutions for you that will help you out in many of the things that many solutions that you're looking for.
Yes, absolutely. And I think the Kubescape have some wonderful talks at the KubeCon and the CNCF YouTube channel in particular. So I will definitely share some of the links in the past as well. I think one of the most interesting talks that I have learned in the past time that's given by Shauli Rosen, I believe, in some of the DevOps conferences where he shared what have we learned from scanning our 10K unique cluster with KubeScape. That's a very good story to listen to. So I will definitely include the link in somewhere so people can actually enjoy and talk about as well. So one question I think you have been hearing or people are asking you a lot, is KubeScape another eBPF tool?
Oh, I got that one on my panel at eBPF Day in Salt Lake City. No, that's the short answer. The thing is, eBPF together with runtime security and observability was a very, very big buzzword during KubeCon in Salt Lake City. But KubeScape is not an eBPF tool. KubeScape uses eBPF in order to get information and then it manipulates the data stream that comes from the eBPF that we use, the way we use it, because I can go into that in a second. And it turns data into information. eBPF gives you a data stream. Data is great. There are data geeks out there that love data. The thing is, data is not actionable. What is actionable is information. And KubeScape basically makes that transference between data into information so that the users of KubeScape don't have to kind of try to figure out what it is that the data is saying to them.
Absolutely. And I think during the KubeCon, there's a Cilium plus eBPF day. And usually people try to relate is, oh no, there's another eBPF tool in the horizon. And I think this is a good answer to one of my questions because I've seen a lot debate around this question in the KubeScape in general. So I think for the next few parts, because we're just coming out of the KubeCon, so we know there is some problem in the industry in regards to GDPR and SIS benchmark, and also in the cloud native application detection and response. And also when we're talking about the cloud native security, we're talking about 4 Cs of the cloud: container, code, cloud, and clusters. So and I think might be my next question is two of a big one, but I try to make it a simpler one. So you have mentioned that the cloud native application detection is response is the next big thing in the cloud security. So how does CADR different from traditional CSPM approaches?
Okay, so first of all, CADR, it's a new acronym. Maybe Gartner will pick it up, maybe not. But what I'm saying is we all know other DRs. We know EDR, ADR, or XDR for short. The thing is if we were to look, try to explain what CIDR is. Imagine yourself walking into a dark room. There's an elephant in that room, but you can't see it because you're totally blind. If you touch its leg, you think you're touching a tree. If you touch its tail, you think you're touching a rope. If you touch its tusks, you think you're touching, I don't know, something made of china or ivory, right? If you're touching its trunk, you're touching a hose. So, and that sort of explains the conundrum of because the four C's basically talk about four levels. And everybody, if you're only looking at your own level, you only get part of the story. Now you turn on the light and you see your whole security event is a great big elephant in the room. And that is what you wanted to know in the first place, because then you would have known to bring peanuts or bananas. So my point is that there are many security tools out there that deals with different pieces of those four C's, even CSPM for that matter, because it's got the cloud piece, right? But if you're looking in, if you want a holistic view, you have to look at everything together. And I can even kind of talk about SOC hell, is where you get multiple alerts on the same problem because it's your EDR, your ADR, and your CSPM alerting on something. All of them are valid, but if you don't know that it's a single security event, you're running around trying to solve three different problems when it's only one. And that is really, really problematic, especially for the security people that have to deal with the security events. So at first they have to kind of get the alerts, and then they have to collate the alerts, and then they have to do some sort of analysis to understand from the data to understand the information. If you have a holistic view, as we offer in Kubescape for detection, we can say, okay, this whole thing is just one, not just, these things are dangerous, they're big, they're scary. That's what we have security tools for. But it's the one thing, it's not three. So let's deal with it. And we know from attack paths, for instance, that sometimes it's just a matter of flicking one switch. And then you break a chain and you're okay for now. Of course, you need to secure everything else, but you're not under attack anymore. So again, your alert level goes down a little bit, and you can get back to work, which is the hardening and the compliance and things to that effect. So what I'm saying is, you need a holistic view, which is based on data that came from multiple sources, different levels in the four C's, that is now turned into information, which is one single security event that you can deal with.
Absolutely. And I think that's quite natural in the cloud native environment in particular, because we usually if we work with a different tooling system in the Kubernetes space. And sometimes I feel like going back to the chemistry class, where I can pick up one hydrogen atom and pick up another from periodic table, combine them together. Oh my God, there's a new thing in my box. But that is originated from as you're explaining, just a one simple things that is originated from. So it's a very important phrase you mentioned. Just look at the one thing and then to try to build up solving the problem in that regard as well. Now and speaking of this conversation, now we're going into the KubeCon London next year. And in Europe, the GDPR is a big elephant in the room these days. All of the companies, more and more tooling built around these GDPR compliance and regulatory systems. So is KubeScape addressing some of the GDPR use cases? If yes, what are those?
KubeScape has not yet, but can. Okay, KubeScape compliance or configuration libraries or policies are built based on a Rego library. We have it. It's open in our repo, and you can see basically all of the rules and what they're based on, which framework they're based on. We have not yet had the time to add in GDPR frameworks. That is totally possible. You can either do it in the Rego library, which is based on, we have OPA under the hood. Although Rego is sometimes a hard language to use. So if you're not an expert, you might not want to use it. However, Kubescape also supports CEL, Common Expressive Language. It became GA, I think, in 130, might have been, or 129. And so it's much easier to create rules in CEL, but we're all speaking to the community now. If you are a GDPR maven and you want to learn Rego, or if you're a Rego maven and you want to learn GDPR, we're very, very happy to work with you on a contribution to our library in order to enhance Kubescape as a configuration scanner and make it very, very easy for people to become compliant and stay compliant with GDPR.
Absolutely. And I think as you're speaking of this thing, I have also noticed in the website that the cell admission library is created by this Kubescape maintainer. And I can see this as a no infrastructure requirement, reduce latency, and the cluster administrator is now responsible for observability, security, release, rollout, rollback, plans for webhook will experience a lower operational burden with validation admission policies. And as you're explaining, you can do the same heavy lifting using the OPA or RECO language expression. And now the cell is on the horizon. So the people can add their requirement for the GDPR and make them available in the cell admission library in the Kubescape, making them this tool become a more compliant towards GDPR. So I believe listening people are listening to this podcast, they find something useful in there because some companies has their own requirements in regards to their GDPR compliance things. Now, for the last final few question, and I think this is very necessary to ask in terms of Kubescape, because I think we just about 37 days left for closing down the 2024. So what's in the horizon in the 2025? I think might be a very extensible question, but still wanted to hear like what's in the horizon, what communities ask for the most, and which direction which tool is going to took in the 2025.
Okay, so first of all, incubation is on the horizon in 2025. We hope to have a party or some sort of reason to party in London and be able to mark that milestone. The core team is working very, very hard on that. We just, if you want to join in, if you want to help, the Kubescape community meeting is every other week on Tuesday, 3 p.m. Central European time. We are very happy to accept more people to our community and get all the help we can. We are now doing a lot of work in order to make it easier to join the community and to understand where we're headed. In terms of what we did in 2024 was we basically stopped nearly all new feature creation because we were finding that there were problems around resource consumption. We were finding that scalability was problematic. And in order to grow the project, in order to bring it to maturity, we had to solve these problems. These are problems that you can live with in just any open source project. These are problems that maybe a sandbox project can live with, but these are not problems that a more mature project can bring on. So we really, really focused on that. We solved it. Good news, solved. We sorted it out. We're very happy with our with the changes that we made. We're even proposing a lightning talk next KubeCon to tell the story of how we solve these growing pains. So hopefully we'll be accepted and you'll come to see. And in the next year, we're basically planning our roadmap now, but in the next year we'll be looking into the new features that we will be adding. Some of them based on feature requests we got from the community. some of them based on needs that we understand. The Kubescape community has an in because the core maintainers come from ARMO and we speak to customers every day. We know what the market wants. So we're happy to contribute back to the community and bring even knowledge from our customers into Kubescape in that way in order to help the community as well. So again, I can invite as many times as I want. Please join the community, have your voice heard. We're happy to see people join, ask, and we're happy to help.
Absolutely. These are the very good news for the people, and people who are actually planning for the KubeCon, make sure to look up some of the tasks coming towards you from the Kubescape angle. So that is your responsibility to take an eye out on as well. So I think I can try to recap some of the things we spoke about. So Kubescape is KUB's SCAPE is a Kubernetes open source tool and is kind of a multi-cloud Kubernetes single pane of glass, including risk analysis, security compliance, and RBAC visualizer, image vulnerabilities, and scanning. And it can do compliance and container scan results stored as Kubernetes resources inside the cluster, and scanning container images for the vulnerabilities from the CLI, reporting on the vulnerabilities for all the image in the cluster, a new overview security scan which help you to set a baseline for cluster security and highlight of high risk workload, those that could do the most damage if they are compromised. The key feature include risk assessment, compliance check, CIS Kubernetes benchmark, NSA or CISA Kubernetes hardening guidance, vulnerability scanning, integration with CI/CD pipeline, configuring network policies or giving you network policies to begin with, and real-time dashboard. And I think there are so many key feature to think around Kubernetes, but the policy enforcement, runtime production, and end-to-end integration, what I see is the most beneficial if you use the tool today. So any final questions for Oshrat? If you kind of recap and please drive the where should people want to meet you and where should they go to learn about Kubescape?
Okay, so first and foremost, on the CNCF Slack, we have two channels, one for users, Kubescape, and one for people that want to join the community or find bugs, Kubescape Dev. Furthermore, there's the Kubescape GitHub. You can have a look there. And there's Kubescape IO, the site as well. Lastly, we like to hang around KubeCon EU and KubeCon North America, so try to look us up there. When it's not our shift, because as I mentioned, the landscape is so big, is that you don't get much time on the pavilion. I'm circulating. Ben, one of the core maintainers, is circulating. And you can always hit us up at the ARMO booths wherever we are, because Kubescape and ARMO, though different entities, are very, very closely linked at the moment. And we're happy to talk cloud security with anybody who is interested.
Yes, absolutely. And Oshrat is a go-to person for me as well for learning around Kubescape. He's been very presentable in the KubeCon and also have some wonderful resources. So I definitely include the link in the description so you can check out as well. For me, Kubescape stand out for its simplicity and comprehensive feature set. It caters to teams at any stage of their Kubernetes security journey and scales effortlessly as organizational needs grow. By automating critical tasks like compliance and risk assessment, Kubescape reduces the operational burden, empowering team to focus on delivering secure and high quality application. With that, I hope you enjoy the conversation with us. And if you have more questions, please add them into the YouTube comment section and we would love to answer those as well. And thank you very much for listening to this episode. We'll look forward to meeting you again with another guest, with another tool from the CNCF landscape or some other topic from the Cloud Native umbrella. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye-bye.